on your somatic healing and nervous system regulation recovery journey, when you're getting better and moving forward with sensations like chronic pain, anxiety, panic attacks, arrhythmia, POTS, fibromyalgia, migraines, interstitial cystitis, pudendal neuralgia, and more, you may be tempted to go to a Facebook support group. But I'm here to tell you that a lot of those groups might actually make you worse. And I'm going to explain why. And I recently had a post that I did about getting kicked out of one of these groups. So I'm going to tell that story. So stick around. I'm Healing Wolf, a professional chronic pain, trauma, anxiety, and panic recovery coach over at healingwolfcoaching.com. I work with clients one-on-one on Zoom to move them forward on their recovery journey and get them out of hell. So today I want to talk about these so-called support groups online, because on my own journey, I quickly realized that these support groups were counterproductive, especially if they use words that are indicative of a life sentence, like fibromyalgia is a progressive disease is one of them. Even the word disease, we're not dealing with a disease with neuroplastic sensations. There's no disease process. It's just that your brain has been wired to protect you. Your unconscious mind sends you protection sensations in the form of chronic pain or anxiety or other sensations. But there's no disease. So other support groups have titles like chronic pain and disability, and there are some that are really pro-drugs, pro-opioids, and they're all pro, a lot of them, I shouldn't say all because there's some great ones, like TMS group or my own group, the Healing Den. Those groups are set up to create a safe space for folks. But there are a bunch of these groups that people just post things like, what's the worst thing about having anxiety? Or I feel like anxiety is destroying my life. I can't go on. There are even people who openly post about being suicidal, about wanting to end their lives. And those groups are not helpful for a mind that's in recovery from those conditions, because your mind sees this and it imagines it. It imagines it instantly, right? So think of a pink elephant. What did you just do? Read something about someone being suicidal. What did you just do? Your mind considers it. Like, you can't help it but to put yourself in that person's mind. And you don't want to be in the mind of people who are in that space. Leave that to the professionals. It's our job to help people get out of that mind space and move into a hopeful and optimistic mind space where they are actually moving towards what they want and what they don't want. So if you're in a group that's giving you what you don't want, more of what you don't want, negativity, complaining, talking about how awful sensations are, describing sensations in a very metaphorical way, talking about knives, talking about being crushed by a giant skyscraper, or I'm just coming up with this off the top of my head. I've seen people talking about something called a struggle bus. You don't want to think about being on a struggle bus. You're not on a struggle bus. You're on a recovery bus. Let's lighten it up. You're on a laughter bus, laughing your way to getting better. But I want to just I want to read the post that I put out recently, and I sent out a newsletter on this again. I wrote, I got kicked out of a chronic pain support group, because I recovered using my mind. And yeah, they kicked me out for talking about that. And after a decade as a folk musician, I was bedridden with chronic pain, anxiety, panic, gastritis, POTS, arrhythmia, vertigo, chronic fatigue, and more. Like, I had so many sensations. And I wanted to join a support group, so I talked about that. And I thought that finding such a group would be a lifeline, but it wasn't. It was a hard truth to find out that these groups are actually a hurricane of complaint. People just complain and complain and blame and blame. They blame their environment. In my main modality, rapid resolution therapy, we never blame the environment for what's coming up within us, whether it's emotional or psychosomatic. We look to the processing of unconscious mind and we shift that processing so our minds can process the data coming in from our environment in a different way. So if our nervous systems are operating from high alert, this is what I put in my post, I realized that surrounding myself with constant negativity and trauma dumping drilled holes in my sailboat. And it became like a boat parade where everyone was drilling holes in the bottom of their boats. And that sent a massive danger signal to my unconscious mind. And so I wrote a newsletter about it too, and I put it out there. And here are some of the comments that I got from people. I'll just read some of these comments because it's really an epidemic, and people are realizing that everybody has to go through this, and it's like common. So here's one of the really cool comments, that some folks' identity is so much attached to dis-ease that they can't imagine life without it, which is the core of why they can't or won't heal. That's so true. They make an identity out of having these sensations, and they want to be a fibro warrior or a spoonie or whatever. They're making identities, and that's just limiting, and it's creating fixation in the mind on what you don't want. If you constantly tell your body that it is unwell, you will be unwell. Such wisdom here. Okay, some people say, for a lot of people, they would rather accept defeat because hope is too scary. I've seen that time and time again. So I'll tell you a little story. First, I'll tell you a story about a friend of mine I made when I was beginning my recovery journey. But first, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me on my mission to get people out of hell. Give me thumbs up, ring the bell so you get new videos. And now to end this video, I'm going to tell you a story of a neighbor I met who'd been suffering with what she considered to be fibromyalgia, and her doctors considered fibromyalgia. And she was self-medicating with marijuana and some other things, and maybe some medication, some alcohol. And when I said, hey, guess what? I just discovered this new path. There's this book, The Way Out. There's Dr. Schubiner's book, Unlearn Your Pain. And we can get better, I told her. And she said, yeah, but what if I don't get better? What if I never get better? So I don't want to do that, because it'd be so devastating if it didn't work for me. That's a mindset hurdle that you have to leap first. Like, what if you don't get better? I've never seen a single client not get better. Getting better can happen almost instantaneously. It means you drop your fear just a little bit. Even 1% per day moves you forward and gets you better. So that fear is unfounded. It's just another thought coming from unconscious mind to protect you. So what if you don't get better? At least you had the courage to try. At least you gave it a shot, right? It's possible that you might need some time to practice this stuff. And it's possible that it could vanish pretty quickly. Like, you could get better in a single session. I use rapid resolution therapy, so I usually get people better to the point where they can work on their own in 3 to 6 sessions. And sometimes even the first session, they're like, wow, I feel so much better. My fear levels have dropped. And then it's just a waiting game. Once your fear drops, you consistently show up and expand your life and ride the waves, if you get waves of increased sensation, until you get your life back. And that is a gift and a treasure that is worth having the courage to give it a shot. So get out of the groups with these negative mindsets who want you to medicalize yourself and fight for your opioids, fight for your addiction, fight with negativity. Even people with structural issues, you can get better. There's a huge article that I have on this channel, The Guardian article. Read that. I'll read it to you actually in the video. You don't even have to read it. So check that one out. And if you need help one-on-one, you'd like to work with me one-on-one, head to my website, healingwolfcoaching.com. Book a free consult. We will strategize. We'll get you set up with some processes that are going to automate your recovery. And we're going to get your unconscious mind on board so the intention is set and you will on a deeper level where you won't actually consciously have to work it as much. You will be on the path of recovery and your recovery will become inevitable over time. So hit my website, healingwolfcoaching.com, sign up for my newsletter, book a consult, and I'll see you in the next video. Here's a playlist to check out and subscribe if you haven't already. I love you. I know you can do this.